We have one battery bar.
One battery bar. Okay, let's do this. We're good.
We're good.
We're back.
We're back. Episode 15.
15. Definitively. We know that this time.
And we're on the other side of the world, Dylan.
Yeah, like left to right, down, up and down, other side.
It doesn't get much further away from home.
Well, it does. Time zone wise, though,
This is it.
this is it.
We are currently in Taupō, New Zealand for the Ironman 70.3 World Championships.
Taupō.
Taupō.
Toe?
Paw.
Paw.
And
You can't see us because this is radio, but toe like on your foot and paw like on your hand.
Taupō. So we got in last Saturday, or I guess Saturday.
local day.
Yep. It was a 28-hour travel day.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually fairly easy.
Honestly, I go back to, I think, our last podcast where we talked about expectations. I had expectations, so it was exactly what I expected. And yeah, it was long, but you know what? It was doable. It was like 2-hour flight to San Francisco and then a quick layover and then a 13-hour flight to Auckland.
12 and change.
12 and change. And then a 4-hour drive to Taupō.
Which was awesome. We were dreading it.
Awesome.
It wasn't fun, but it was awesome.
And here's why, I think, because I don't know if you knew beforehand. I didn't really think about that this is a left-hand drive country with right-hand drive vehicles. And so it was just blowing minds for 4 hours.
It was 4 hours of keep
Wrong way.
Keep it tight.
Wrong way.
Wide, take it wide, right turns wide. But we got it down. We got here safe, and we haven't recorded a podcast because we've been busy.
You've been busy.
We've been slammed in a good way. There was a lot of infrastructure to build out before Open, which Expo opened today.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing strictly internet, which is a little change of pace for World Championship events in BCC.
Mm-hmm.
And we probably have 3,500 feet of Cat 5 ran around the venue.
Yeah, and like 620 feet of fiber that we're using for the first time, which is, well, 4 channels of it, if you want to call that like 2,400 feet. That's cheating, probably.
That's definitely cheating.
But yeah, it's working like a dream, and we have one router and a tech closet in the belly of the theater, and there is nothing that is not plugged into a physical cable.
Correct.
Which is sweet.
Yeah, so we're using a bunch of our Ubiquity equipment that can be meshed wirelessly, but instead we said, hey, let's just spend the extra little bit of time, run a cable to everything, test the cables, and then we know we'd be in business. And so the last few days have definitely been busy.
How did we get everything plugged in? What was our secret sauce here that we never get to do in the U.S.?
The box of cable?
The trenching.
Oh, yeah. I was like, we usually have boxes of cable in the U.S., but yeah, we got the trench, so not everywhere, literally nowhere.
Nowhere.
Is like, hey, don't worry about cable ramps, just dig a hole and run your cable through the hole.
That was like our first sentence with the Jeff. He's the power guy. We call him Sparky. Everyone calls him Sparky. That's not just us.
Sparky.
Yeah, and we're like, hey, what are your cable ramp plans? And he's like, oh yeah, we just dig here.
And then we went to Ruby, who's kind of overseeing things on the ground. Hopefully we can have her on.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, we kind of asked her, like, hey, Jeff said we could just trench our cables. And she's like, oh, yeah, they don't care. Go ahead. Grab a shovel.
Yeah.
Dylan and I are like,
yes, please.
Yeah, this seems like a trick because we're just so not used to being able to. I think once ever we trenched some power cables in Ironman Florida the COVID year, but it was in sand. Like it was sandy, grassy dirt. But it wasn't like, dig a straight line through the park. And put your cable in.
It is normal grass that you expect from a park.
Yeah,
and it honestly, like, especially that'd be hard with the power cables that are like an inch in diameter.
Yeah, I feel bad for Jeff. We actually trenched about a meter of cable with just a knife, with a pocket knife. Just slit a hole in the ground, and
I have a picture.
It was deep enough that we just kind of slid the cable in there, stomped it down, and no one knows it's there.
Yeah, and we're talking about our Cat 5. They're not direct burial rated, but it needs to last for a week, so it's perfect.
It's fine.
It disappears after half an hour of foot traffic, and I assume we'll just be able to rip it right up in a week.
Yeah, that's the plan. Very little left to do.
Yeah.
Like I said, we've been super busy. We have
Productively busy.
productively busy. We have a couple lines to go to the finish line,
Yep.
and then we have the banquet center just to make sure that they're good for check-in and beer sales. So
Mm-hmm.
we're in a really good spot, and it's been fun. We were just talking earlier how it's fun to come to these events and be challenged and have to critical think and problem solve and trench cables and hey, how are we going to get a cable from here at the theater to the medical tent that is 4 football fields away,
Yeah.
and you can only run a cable 300 feet.
Yeah. And we don't want to just daisy chain a bunch of stuff. We really didn't daisy chain anything. Like we have what's called like a star topology network of our switches where there's like a core switch and it fans out from there,
Yeah.
which is ideal.
And we have everything on its own fiber because we had those 4 strands, so we were able to convert the fiber here at the building and run it outside.
So we're not relying on one switch in the merch tent to be the destiny of the finish line if a volunteer accidentally kicks it or something.
Right.
Which is great.
There's 3 main areas, and all 3 are on a different fiber line, and I feel good about it. It's been fun. It's been challenging, but the weather's been perfect.
Yeah, the thing I didn't really think about until we got here was the latitude here is actually the same as Denver, just opposite, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. In my mind, I expected New Zealand to be, I don't know, like another Hawaii. It's not. It feels more like doesn't. I mean, it's New Zealand, so it looks like a dreamland from Lord of the Rings, but it feels more like home. Like it's cool mornings and not humid.
It
and
feels like springtime in
Yeah.
Denver. The one thing that sleeping, all that stuff was a concern, not an issue at all for me. What's been bugging me is how light it is, how late it stays light.
Yeah. What time did the sun set last night?
It was like 8:30,
Yeah.
maybe later.
Yeah.
It was crazy because we get done work and we're like, oh yeah, nice day. And we look at your watch and you're going to dinner at 7:00 at night.
Yeah, and it's still full sun.
Yeah.
Like you could go start a long bike ride then.
Yeah, which is incredible. That's the only thing that trips me up still. But speaking of going out, we've met some incredible bartenders.
Yep.
It works a little different here. You don't come into the bar and belly up to the bar or get seated and have a waiter or waitress. Everything's order at the bar, which was kind of a culture shock to you and I. We were like, is someone going to come wait on us at this table or?
Yeah, no, I remember the first restaurant we went to, we had that awkward moment, like, do we just sit anywhere? And they're like, sure, I guess, whatever you want. And we go up to the bar and we're like, what do you want? Is this where we get a beer? And yeah, okay, where do we order food? Do you order it here too? And they're like, yeah, dummy.
Yeah, dude.
Order everything at the bar.
This is the bar.
We're like, okay. And then, we learned pretty quick. That's just how it works everywhere.
Which is nice. You said you liked it. Like, you go up, you order a beer, you pay for the beer, you go sit down. You want another beer, you go up. And there's been 1 or 2 places that are like, yeah, we can run you a tab. But it doesn't matter either way. They're just like,
yeah, that's
whatever.
when boss lady looked at you with like you had 4 eyes. Hey, can you hold my tab open? And
yeah, I handed her my card. I said, hey, you just leave it open. And she's like,
What?
what does that mean? But boss lady then came over and was like, yeah, you ordered like a handle. So it was like a pint glass with a handle on it of this beer that I like, the Summit
Ultra.
The Summit Ultra. And she comes over to the table. She's like, why'd you order that if you're going to have more than one? I was like, what do you mean? She's like, the bottle is half the price and twice the quantity.
Yeah.
And before that beer was empty, there was a bottle on the table. And
Yeah.
we do need to go back there. We've been trying to go to a different place every night.
Yeah, and man, everywhere has been 10 out of 10. Like 3 meals a day. It's just spectacular food.
Food, service, the people are so nice. The
people are nice. So the service is definitely different here, right? Because the reason why they charge and order in advance, the service industry is paid full wage. They don't operate on tips here. And so they're just genuinely happy people to be meeting people and bringing them into their town. And it's just efficient.
It is. And most of the people are interested in us as much as we are them. Hey, where are you from? Why are you here? And then
they have a hard time understanding us talk.
There's more of a language barrier, an accent barrier, I guess.
Accent barrier, yes.
We get into a conversation with someone, and then both of us the person you're talking to and myself, we both slow down.
Yeah.
Like, all right, whoa. Yeah, no, I talk funny. I know it's my bad.
Yeah,
Mate.
and I think we have a leg up because we know we're in a different country and we've been here for a week, so we've been practicing. But the girl out of high school at the coffee shop, someone just walks up to them and she's like, "What?"
Yeah.
So yeah, crazy.
Yeah, and then the verbiage stuff too is interesting. Take away instead of take out, and you're like, yeah, can I wear that for takeout? Like, I don't know what that means.
Yeah,
Take away.
yeah.
But yeah, there hasn't been a single thing that I'm like, that was weird. It's been the McDonald's.
The McDonald's that has like a retired warplane in the front that you can eat your dinner in the cockpit. That's sweet.
It's sweet.
Self-proclaimed coolest McDonald's in the world.
I'll second it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. And then the vast amount of options.
So many options.
I don't even know how to describe it.
It's crazy. Like if you go to a similar size city, which I think a lot of people around kind of agree. I don't know how it compares on paper with numbers, but this feels like Coeur d'Alene in terms of size. If you've ever been to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, that's kind of what it feels like. And in a town that size, like you have the downtown strip, maybe a couple, like a satellite one.
Yeah.
And, like obviously tons of places, but like 6 big ones. But this place has like 50. It's not just one street. It's like a whole 5 by 5.
As I say, it's 5 city blocks of just restaurants and shops and the ear doctors. There's 3 different ear doctors in town. It's insane.
It's insane.
Shout out Kate, our resident robo ear. And that I think was one thing that blew me away is just we could stay here for a month and never eat in the same place twice.
Yeah. Although I do want to get those mussels again.
Yeah.
So I guess New Zealand is known for green-lipped mussels.
And they were phenomenal.
Insane.
Not only bars, restaurants, and shops, but grocery stores, tech stores like Best Buy's, Home Depot type stores that, we're used to. They have it all. Corey's, big shout out to Corey's. Corey's is a electrical supply company here in town, and they've provided us with 3 now boxes of Cat 5.
Yeah. And what's cool, I mean, again, just to hammer on the density of businesses, all these places we're talking about, wholesale electrical supply, 3 different types of Best Buy, 2 different types of Home Depot and a Target and grocery stores and a million restaurants. There is not a single one of these places that has been more than a walking distance away.
That definitely puts it in perspective. From our hotel, you could it's within a mile.
Yeah.
Like
there was 2 different electrical supply stores. If the first Corey's didn't have it, we could have gone next door to the other one.
It's awesome. And I think I can't reiterate enough how nice everyone is.
Yeah.
The GLC where we're kind of home based at, where all the IRONMAN staff is working from, credentials, media. We're gonna have the pro press conference here. The folks here at the GLC are just over the top excited that we're here. They're more than accommodating. They check in on us more than we check in on them, which is unheard of.
Yeah.
And
they trust us to, take care of their space.
Yeah.
They know that we are here to do a job and they want us here. So,
and the communication leading up to the event was phenomenal with these guys. And so all in all, I'm just, you come into a place with expectations. It's a big event. It's an important event. There's a lot of work to be done. And, there's nerves, there's angst. And once we got here, it was kind of, once we met Gary, things kind of felt okay. Like, this is going to be good. This is going to be all right. All those trepidations, anxious feelings kind of just dissolved.
Gary, if I don't think we spoke about him yet, is our local IT consigliere, maybe we can say.
Yeah, he's one of us.
He's typically I think he's typically like an IT support for Ironman New Zealand around not World Championships.
Correct.
And he was booked to do this event, and hats off to him. Early on realized he's like, hey, I think I need help. This is a big one, which is why we're here in the first place. So yeah, that takes a confident person, to be like, I need help.
Totally.
yeah, hats off.
And when we came in, the fiber was installed. He knew he's a local. He's been here. He was able to, very easily explain, here's this, here's that, here's this is what I've done, this is what I've already did. And he's taking care of some of our remote, connections and transition at the swim start. The hot corner he's getting installed today. So it was really nice to come in with someone who knew the lay of the land,
did what he said he was going to do,
could speak the language, our language, like internet language, and had an understanding of how to do temporary installs, which not every person we deal with knows how to do. When Cox comes out to a venue, they're like,
"Where's your closet?" All right.
All right. One battery bar was not enough.
One bar is not enough, folks.
I thought it'd go down to 0 bars.
Yeah, so, the bar meter is like 3 bars. And so I was just saying, unless you see it go from 2 to 1, it could be, 0.1 bars.
I swear we're professionals at audio. Anyway, PodTrack died. It's part of
Gary's
the game.
awesome.
Gary's awesome. And
gave us a great suggestion of maybe the best watering hole in town. Jolly Goodfellas. Awesome place. I feel like the last thing before we bring on a guest in terms of pre-event anyway, because I hope we can sit down again after the event and reflect on how things actually worked and if they worked.
Yeah, if they stay working.
I feel like the big thing that you circle back that was like started this whole thing off challenging, which is a learning experience for us, is a huge deal that we took away, which is don't underestimate the complexity of traveling abroad in terms of like visas and importing equipment.
Yeah, if you're going anywhere abroad with equipment, do better homework than us.
Yeah.
And I'm saying between Dylan and I, we had about 3 hours of homework on Google and with ChatGPT, and we still didn't get it right.
We still didn't get it right. Yeah, and we even, I like some of the question, like the things that we learned, like, do you need to declare goods on import? I thought that I had a direct, search in Google, like, do I need to do this? And I saw government websites and determined, no, and we're good. And it's, it's just complicated. Like we have a lot of experience going to Canada. We have a fair amount of experience now going to Europe. New Zealand is new. I think just the takeaway for me, I think moving forward is just get on the phone and call customs.
Yeah.
Because they'll tell you. So long story short, some IRONMAN staff had some issues getting expensive equipment into the country at customs. And we got this warning like, hey, make sure you have your ducks in a row, 1 hour and a half before we were leaving for the airport. And we're like, we did not do this. And so,
and to backtrack, the government websites were a little confusing, but the general consensus between you and I was like, okay, we did what we needed to do. We don't need to declare. We don't need to make a carnet. We don't need to do these things.
Because we did get an app that was all about declaring any declarations. Like, if you've been to Hawaii, maybe a lot of people can remember, you always got to fill out that paper and bring a pen and say,
you don't have pets, you don't have food, blah, blah,
New
blah.
Zealand is great that you can do that, but they also have an app that you can do like a day in advance. And so we did that and we said, hey, we have these commercial goods. But what we didn't know is that we should have also applied for a carnet, which to my understanding is meant to be like a passport for goods so that we can prove and secure that everything we're taking into the country, we're going to take home and we're not selling it and then taking potential tax dollars, right, to the local economy.
Right.
That's my understanding. I could be totally wrong.
I think at the very basics, that's the idea. And then to go back, we never had any issues going to Nice 2 years. We didn't have any issues going to Finland.
Nope.
Obviously, Kona, Canada, there wasn't any issues. So we were like, okay, we did what I think we needed to do.
Yeah.
And we get this email, and Dylan, Kate, and I are scrambling, waiting for our ride to pick us up to go to the airport to travel to New Zealand, trying to fill out spreadsheets and get dollar values associated with equipment. And I'm glad we had a concise list.
Yeah.
That we were able to go back, kind of copy paste and do a little bit of Googleage to get the right answers. But
so first of all, I have to send a huge shout out to IRONMAN for giving us that little tip. Cause I think it caught a lot of vendors, internal staff.
I don't think it was just us.
No, it's definitely not us, just us. So thanks for that warning. And then I wish I could say thanks to, the staff so first of all, let me thank Kate, my wife, because she pulled that together, like this manifest of a carnet in like 3 hours.
We landed in San Francisco and had a carnet in our inbox.
It was insanely
insane.
impressive. And come to find out, we did that, and you're required the physical document. So I think we missed it anyway. But we did something different where I think it's called like a temporary import bond, where I believe the system is that we pay for the taxes as if we sell the goods, and then when the goods come back into our country, we get that back.
Correct.
So it's like a collateral.
I think you're right. Yeah.
But yeah, so that ended up being the secret ticket that the the customs equivalent of TSA in New Zealand were super nice. Like, yeah, you did everything right, and the woman that Kate worked with customs, like remotely, hammer that thing out in like an hour for us, which should take like weeks. So
yeah,
we got lucky, and we have good people on our side.
Totally. And I think at the end of the day, what we learned is over declare and always be honest with customs. And like Dylan said, the people at customs couldn't have been more nice and helpful. They were a little confused because I don't think that the temporary import bond is something they see every day or ever.
Yeah.
They usually see carnets and other forms of importation documentation. But learned a lesson.
So again,
and
take what we call customs, because at the end of the day, that's what Kate did at the 0 hour, and they pushed it through. And so it was honestly easy if it was a month in advance to do that.
Yeah, and live and learn. No harm, no foul. We got everything here.
Gotta get it back.
We got to get it back. We're surrounded by it right now in our little star dressing room. Mm-hmm. We've made ourselves at home in the star dressing room of the theater because I don't think it's big enough for anybody else but us. So our little podcast home-based studio. But yeah, let's go outside and see if we can find a guest.
Sounds good.
All right. So as I mentioned, we were going to go walk around the expo and try and find our first guest in New Zealand. And it just happens to be a Kiwi. We're here with RV. What's going on, man?
No, what a pleasure to be here in New Zealand. This event has been a long time in the making. 2020, we were here. It was obviously scheduled to be at the end of that year, and then with COVID. In fact, we were here, and by the time we left and actually got back to the USA, I think borders closed about 5 days later.
Wow.
And so this event was kind of last of the 2020 was last of the sort of the triathlon events that IRONMAN staged right through that COVID period. So it's really good to be here. Obviously, everyone's exceptionally excited to finally get this event over the line.
For those who are listening that don't know RV, tell me what your name is and who you're here with. It's kind of a big deal.
No, thank you. Yeah. For the longest time, I've just gone by my initials. So Richard Verney, and I've been very fortunate and been involved in the endurance sports world for quite some time, prior to even living in the States. Arrived in the States back in 91, have just always been involved in that sort of sector of the industry. Spent a good sort of 28, 29 years in North County, San Diego. So definitely the hub of endurance sports. Affiliated with a few brands there. And then we migrated over to Asheville, North Carolina. So that was about 5 years ago. And can't seem to leave the endurance space. So we're still doing what we love, and it's just a real pleasure. And obviously, turning up at events like this, it's like a family reunion. So a real pleasure to be here.
So what did you originally do in endurance sports when you got started? What was like your first role that kind of started all this?
So a lot of it has obviously just come from a background of running. So just been very fortunate in sort of being in that run sector. And then when I arrived in the States, there was a new startup nutrition company called PR Bar. So that was sort of my first experience into, the endurance world. Now, again, North County, San Diego, you had Competitor Magazine, Bob, Lois Sports, and John Smith. Obviously John Duke back in the triathlon, mag days and what have you. So, there's obviously just a huge contingent of endurance sports there. So really I was very fortunate and just sort of had that network, showed up at the typical, Tuesday run, Wednesday ride. No means a triathlete at all, but just had a real interest in that sort of in that endurance side of things. So really, it was sort of through there that I sort of created the relationships. PR Bar was again looking for an athlete as well, so I was sort of lucky to sort of cross over, work for the brand, and also was one of their athletes. So really from there, it just sort of progressed, migrated from there out of the actual sports side of things into, believe it or not, into the print world with a brand called Modern Postcard. But Modern Postcard was very progressive in the use of postcards for branding. So they did a lot of product type cards. So a lot of the action sports events that we went to for those types of audience. So back in the day, you had a lot of the action sports side of things that involved everything from BMX. You had an incredible number of iconic athletes back in those days. So sort of followed that around, and then really after that, it was when I sort of got back into the endurance side of things with a brand called 2XU, 2XU, and that really was sort of 2006 through to 17. So that really was sort of the foundation of where a lot of the connections and the relationships happened.
Well, yeah, 2XU still around, and yeah, you mentioned the BMX and stuff. That was like the X Games days, the very beginning when they would go on tour and set up giant ramps and all that kind of stuff.
No, for sure, and that's exactly what it was. We did postcards for X Games for all of the riders.
Super
Yeah,
cool.
you're based there. I mean, obviously Dave Mirra's passed, but I mean, he was one of the iconics and sort of Haro bike
Yeah,
brands, and so a lot of that action sports came from that sector. Wakeboarding was huge. You sort of go back Parks, Boniford, and a lot of those sort of names sort of come to mind. In fact, one of our girls right here in Morgan Crescent, Morgan is, she's an incredible athlete. She was a little wakeboarding queen in her day as well. So,
Yeah.
you don't get very far from action sports.
No, definitely not in the triathlon community. And then so today you own your own business. You're in Asheville. What do you guys do, and how are you, connected here with Hoka?
Yeah, so again, just sort of going back to that sort of period of time when 2XU, we sort of stepped back out of that in 2017. I was sort of very fortunate in, again, that network of people that I had known through the running sector. So I was approached by Lee Cox of Hoka, and they had literally just taken on the sponsorship of IRONMAN. And I had had almost 7 years of the sponsorship experience with our 2XU brand.
Sure.
In the sort of compression triathlon arena. So joined them there. And at that stage, it was really, young days of triathlon for Hoka. And Eric Gillinson is another name that's obviously very much affiliated with the Hoka brand in triathlon. So I've literally just sort of worked through the sports marketing team. Built obviously the brand. We tend to go to places and paint the town blue.
Yep.
So obviously Hoka's really been a brand that's been able to really capitalize obviously on the triathlon market, the type of athlete. And again, the type of athlete's one that is very, very good at giving feedback. They demand a lot, and because of that, Hoka's really listened and obviously built a really good cross section of products now. And then from that, the 2XU days, we had a really good group of people that really understood product, and we were able to come back into market. Jamie Hunt, one of the original founders of 2XU, and we've come back into that market with a brand called Prezio, and it's a sustainable performance run brand. We really felt that if we were going to step back into the marketplace, we had to bring a difference. We knew that the performance side of it was really important, but the sustainability had to be equally important. So we sort of built the brand around what we call our 7 pillars of sustainability, which is from sourcing. The dyeing of product is a major contributor to, pollution in our waterways. So really assessing the dyeing process. Right through to end of life solutions. How do we actually cope with products once they're not in vogue, so to speak. So all of those things sort of added up to what we felt was a really important place for us to come into. And we've had a really sort of I think as a brand now we're heading into our 3rd year. We've been very fortunate, and again, those relationships play such a role. And printed shirts for the UTMB, all the athlete shirts there. Hoka's been a great brand for us as well. And then just a lot of the other, Ragnar Relays, for example, a really good client. And we just recently signed on with USAT. So back in the triathlon sector, which is going to be exciting.
Congrats! Yeah, that's a big deal. And so we're back in your homeland.
Yeah.
What's it like to be back? What's it mean to you to have an event of this scale here, back on the island?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Last year in Lahti, Finland, obviously, again, a small country, you realize the impact it has on smaller nations. So for this event to have sort of been sidelined since 2020, and then now in 2024, we're getting this one over the line. It's amazing. And obviously you can tell just by the excitement, the atmosphere here. People, I think, are just, really happy to be here and just, enjoy the culture. It's a very unique place, and that lake really is the foundation of what we're here to see today.
It's definitely been a long time coming. It's been a buzz of a place for triathletes and people to come, like you said, for 4 or 5 years now. So it definitely does have an air, like a sense in the air that people are relieved that we're finally here, and the way that the town is embracing the event and the athletes is incredible. Like even today we had lunch in a cafe that was 3 blocks up and around the corner in an alley, and they had these handmade swim bike run plaques, like, as trophies on their front bar. It's not like just the restaurants along the finish line. It's the whole town has stickers and signs and art, and it's cool. It's really cool.
No, without a doubt. I think you're really seeing, the culture of this town. It's one of the longest standing Ironman events as well. So this town is really well seasoned. But we were talking, Ryan, a little bit about just, even you go to a bar, just people are friendly, people are welcoming.
So
you just
friendly.
feel super comfortable. And I think that's, as a New Zealander, I think that's what you have some pride in the fact that our people are, hospitable people. They take, that extra amount of effort to make sure that, you're welcome. And it's a comfortable place to be.
Yeah, it felt like a warm hug the first day we got here. I was like, it's going to be all right. Whatever happens, it's going to be all right, because this place is just so, come on in.
We just finished installing an AP at the yacht club, and it was just billowing with the smell of homemade chocolate chip cookies.
Yeah, there was just some lady in there cooking it up, and I was like, yeah, that sounds about right.
What part of New Zealand precisely are you from?
So I'm not necessarily in sort of the mainstream. I come from more the west side of the North Island.
Okay.
A little place called Stratford. New Plymouth is more recognised. In fact, there's been quite a few triathlon events staged out of New Plymouth, so that is definitely pretty well known there. But grew up in rural sort of Taranaki.
Sweet.
Wouldn't trade it for a thing.
Yeah, I bet.
Farming is definitely a key component to New Zealand's industry, and I was very fortunate and just had that opportunity to witness the raw and rural side of New Zealand, and as I said, wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yeah, and so now that you're back, you've done all of this in endurance sport. I found you in the Hoka booth measuring people's feet. You're back on the ground dealing with customers. In the past, I've seen you out there doing activation, painting the town blue, but now you're back. What's it like to be back forward facing with athletes again and getting them in the right running shoes.
No, it's exciting because again, I think obviously, any brand just looks to, what does it take to come full circle? And the way in which that happens is you spend time with the consumer. And it's really it really is fascinating to spend that time. Hoka's obviously done a lot of things right. There's a lot of people that come in and just, they're coming in not to discover a new product. They're coming in to tell you how they enjoy the product, how it's changed them. The number of people that have said, if it wasn't for a Hoka, I probably wouldn't still be doing, athletic things. So,
Wow.
so that side of it's, really reinforcing. And as a brand, that's what you want to hear. It's just really cool to get in front of people, especially here, because, there's a lot of people that have obviously, as we've acknowledged, looking forward to being here, but also just the diversity. There's so many people from, Argentina. You just sit down, and the cool thing is, you get to interact with these people, where you're from and what have you. Obviously, a lot of people still from the States, so you're clearly familiar with the geography there. But, when you start to sort of, dig down a little bit deeper, these people all come from, different backgrounds, and they're all here for a common reason. And, it's just one big community. And I think, that's what, at the end of the day, I don't spend a lot of time in the expo, but when you do, it's really reassuring that, the brand's done some really good things, and people have obviously, really enjoyed the fact that Hoka has been supportive in this industry, this sector. And, we obviously just look forward to the fact that, there's still a huge amount of opportunity out there.
Oh, for sure. And I think even more so than the sporting world, more and more I'm seeing your average Joe wearing Hokas because they're that comfortable. I know a few people in the healthcare sector, and that they refuse to wear anything but Hokas because they're on their feet from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. and they need comfortable shoes. So Hoka's done a lot right, and it's cool that you get to experience it from the athlete side here in person.
Yeah, for sure. And as I said, it just reinforces the fact that the brand has done some incredible things. Will continue to. Obviously, the introduction of new shoes and what have you. And where you found me, Ryan, was actually in our sort of fly lab. And our fly lab is about development, taking feedback, and clearly between the three sets of shoes that are in there, the Cielo, the Rocket X2, and our new Mach X2 as well. Those carbon shoes or plated shoes are definitely, clearly created a very interesting future in the shoe market.
Yes, they have. And it was cool. Dylan, you weren't there, but I got my feet measured. What's the machine called?
Yeah, it's a device that scans, so it's a 3D scanner. I think in this particular case we have versions back in the States, but I think this one is called Safeway, I think. And but again, just doing a 3D scan just reveals an awful lot. Volume of the foot, length of the foot, width of the foot.
Man, I need to come out and see you. That sounds awesome.
It was fascinating.
I would nerd out on that.
It knows my arch type. It knows that my right foot's bigger than my left foot. It knows that I have, obviously flatter feet, so wider feet. And then it had options where I could go, running, hiking, casual, and then it listed all the shoes that were right for me.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Super cool.
So not only are they making advancements in carbon plated shoes and cushion, but they're using technology to their advantage, clearly.
No, and that's the thing. And obviously nowadays, I mean, the sport of triathlon is about technology. Look at everything that we've done, whether it be in the bike sector, in particular, obviously we look to that. It's led the way in so much technology. Shoes, definitely, I think, have been the biggest advancement in the running sector for sure. But yeah, it's really fun to see technology play its role, and visually as well, to actually just sort of stand on our platform and have this data. It's helpful.
Instantly in an expo in a grass field.
Crazy.
It's crazy.
Like the type of information you just said that you got, like I wouldn't be surprised if that was a day-long appointment at the doctor's office that you had to wait for months to get into. But yeah, it's just at the expo. It's awesome.
At the expo, yeah. And talk about the advancement. It's clear because they're making new rules, it seems, every year, whether it be for the bikes and the fairings or the plates and the shoes and the cushion height. So excited to see where Hoka takes us.
Yeah. Again, you have, you saw the lineup of shoes and just the hiking sector alone. Spikes, there's, when you look at the diversity, one of the things that Hoka's really sort of focused on is, where do we sort of line up with our youth, our loyalty? Initially the brand obviously launched with, a much larger shoe, designed more around functionality. Over the period of time, we've refined that. We've got a lot more sort of aware of sort of even fashion being obviously a key component. But just the hiking sector alone is just an area where there's the possibility of huge growth. Taking that whole shoe technology and then bringing it into something like that. So yeah, it's a diverse range. The triathlete, it's really interesting now. We're seeing events like High Rocks come up, and that triathlete is diversifying in. Well, do we need special shoes for those? So, that gym omnivore, type of sort of cross training, which the triathlete is always looking to. So yeah, so there's a huge opportunity for Hoka as known maybe in that triathlon sector initially, but obviously our road, our hiking, our gym. So yeah, so the opportunity is obviously huge.
Yeah, it almost seems like they're all parallel to each other. Like they intersect, but at the same time, a triathlete probably likes to go hiking. They like to be active. So where else do we need to put a different type of shoe on their foot than just a carbon plated running shoe? And that's all we wear.
Yeah,
the Gore-Tex
all
stuff.
three of us in this room are.
I'm not wearing them today, but I always get the Gore-Tex ones because of the wet grass, the rain, and the hiking boots are where it's at because they're so comfortable and they keep my feet dry. So always looking forward to when Hoka comes out with some new stuff. Last question. Who's going to win the men's race and who's going to win the women's race?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's an interesting one for sure. I think, Kat Matthews is definitely probably coming into this as one of the favorites. Clearly Taylor. She's one of our Hoka athletes. I had to give sort of Kat some acknowledgement, but Taylor is clearly obviously, really come on through the T100 series.
Yeah.
So I think those two definitely prominent. The men's is definitely a little bit more open, I think. I must admit I haven't really sort of drilled down as much on that side of things, but yeah, I think we'll wait and see on the day to who has the best
the women's race is all that matters anyway.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and say it. the men, there's just too many these days. I don't know. All the guys that come out of Europe and that just, they don't race in the States, so I don't hear their name. And then you're like, I don't know who this guy is. And then he goes and breaks a course record. And you're like, good on you.
Yeah, exactly. So no, it's regardless. It's going to be a great couple of days of racing.
We were commenting earlier that the weather sure is going to make it a competitive one. It's like just textbook perfect weather for triathlon.
Typical fashion of Taupō and New Zealand is, the forecast changes every couple of days. I think 2 days ago, 2 days ago, half a mile down the road, it was sunny, and then you drive to town and it's raining. So that's so typical of what you see here. But yeah, obviously weather plays a huge role, but it's looking really good. So I think we're going to see some great racing.
Did you catch that?
I did.
What's the name of this town?
Taupō. Well, I say Taupō because again I've sort of I left New Zealand in '84.
Okay.
So I've not necessarily had the adoption of the pronunciations. It's really interesting because the W's and the H's like what we would say is Whangarei is Whangarei. So obviously it's great to see the cultural side of things, but Taupō is definitely now much the recognized the naming. Yeah. So that's cool
to start the episode. We were saying it's Taupō, and we were like, we're gonna find someone who knows, and there we go. We have our answer.
Yeah.
So
but I will admit that just again, born in '61, so just an older sort of cultural awareness of our country.
Sure.
Yeah. But it just shows that it's evolved enormously, and it's phenomenal to see that the representation is throughout our land.
Yeah, as it should be. Well, RV, thank you for your time. The knowledge you have in this industry is incredible, and I'm glad we got to hear a little bit of it.
Can't
No.
wait for you to come measure my feet.
Yeah, there we go. We'll go do that. But no, an absolute pleasure. Thanks for doing what you guys do. Obviously, communication's king. It's just phenomenal that you guys actually spend some time, and we have that opportunity to communicate outbound, and our audience is always interested.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Many thanks.
We're back down to 1 bar.
1 bar. Did you leave it on that whole time?
No, it's been off.
We just need to plug it into USB, probably.
Yeah, probably. Who knows if those double A's are any good anyway. Yeah, so I think what's that leave us with? Not a whole lot here. Till next time, this was podcast number 1 in the land down under.
Yeah, hopefully we get a lot more Kiwis.
Yeah, there's a plan. That's definitely the plan. We should do some recce tonight.
Yes, recce or Kiwi brekkie.
Kiwi brekkie with the recce. Cheers.
Cheers, as they say.